You've often said you were the overweight kid growing up. When you look back now, what was the hardest part? Not physically, but mentally being that kid.
I don't know if anybody's ever asked me in those terms. I had to strip down to my underwear to weigh in before every game and make the weight.
Does part of that kid still live inside of you today?
God, I think that will always be a part of me, seeing my mother cry. It's hard. It really lit a fire up me to be like, okay, I'm going to change the family's trajectory of financials.
Do you think the equipment business found you or you found it?
And when I say I was starving, because every dollar I had went back into the business. I had no money.
As someone who's worked hard all their lives, what does it actually look like? What does it look like when you're working hard and in the grind?
So I remember sometimes working till 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, waking back up and having my first training client at 7 a.m. I've always said I'm not too good to go shovel ditches. Like if shit happened tomorrow, whatever I got to do to make it, I'm going to make it. I will not fail.
What did you spend time worrying about that you now see first-time entrepreneurs worrying about?
The fear of judgment. That always impaired me. If I walk in your restaurant and the bathrooms are filthy with no toilet paper, hand soap, or paper towels, I will probably never go back to eat there. Your first impressions when you walk in a business are everything. In business, people's like, oh, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, I'm off. If the job is not done and my equipment has to ship out, none of us are going home.
A lot of people think that they're behind because they see all the success stories. If someone's watching this today and feels like they're behind in life, what's the one thing you want them to understand?
Oh, I would say,
Mr. Stephen Arveus,
yes.
let's start at the beginning.
Okay.
As you know, I've watched a lot of your own podcasts. You've often said you were the overweight kid growing up. When you look back now, what was the hardest part? Not physically, but mentally being that kid.
I don't know if anybody's ever asked me in those terms to think back like that. You know, when you're young and you are different, and I'd probably say 90% of people was just the normal looking kid. And then I was like the tanner skin Greek. And it was only me and my brother, 2 people that were Greek, and it's my brother. You're different. And then you're overweight on top of that. I don't think the only thing that bothered me about overweight, it was me against me. I don't know if it bothered anyone else as much as it bothered me. I just wanted to, at the time, to fit in, if that makes sense. Like, I just wanted to be like the skinny kids. Muscle at a young age wasn't even on my mind in a sense. And then I started going to the gym with my father, and I would see the muscle guys. I remember seeing guys with big traps, and I was like, I'm going to have big traps one day. That's what I wanted, and big arms. And I just was motivated to get in shape. But it was hard because I think at a young age, you just want to fit in with everybody else. And I think, though, looking back, I encourage anybody listening to this to just like always not really worry about the small things like that, because I didn't know anything about diet and stuff. My Greek grandparents, my grandmother cooked. When she got done cooking breakfast, she was preparing lunch. And when she got done preparing lunch, she was preparing dinner. So I grew up in an environment that you eat. And then after dinner, she's feeding you cake and stuff. So I was just a product of my environment, but I didn't know that at the time. And I wish I could laugh about it now, and I wish back then, but it did bother me as a kid because I just wanted to fit in. When you have people in school, let's just say they make fun of you a little bit, or no girls look at you. And when I got to the age of girls, you know, it wasn't that I was really looking for a girlfriend or anything like that, but like, I think it can bother a person when you're just not like everybody else. But then now, years later, I'm so thankful I was different because that's what set me apart. But it's definitely 2 ends of the spectrum, if that makes sense.
Your childhood experiences kind of shape your adult life. Was there a moment where you stopped feeling like the overweight kid, or does that part of that kid still live inside of you today?
Yeah. I mean, God, I think that will always be a part of me because I'm very self-conscious A lot of people don't realize that about somebody like myself, because these are throwing me for a loop a little bit because I've never been asked in depth like that. um, it will always be, I'm very confident walking into a room, but before I get into that room, like, I like to make sure, like 9 times out of 10, I'm in a tank top, but like, I like to make sure I've always been this way. So my grandfather, my great grandfather, pressed slacks, tucked in, nice collared shirt. I mean, to the T, jewelry everywhere he went. I saw that growing up. And so I was always conscientious as I got older of that myself. And so I like to look a certain way when I go somewhere. So I think if I'm not feeling up to par about the way I look, it can affect me. And I try not to let it, but I think it can also affect anybody. And I'm now coming out of my shell and talking about things like this more with people because I've been on both sides. I've had people before saying, God, Stephen, I'd love to look like your body. And I'm like, no, you don't. I'm like, 30 years of training, 30 years of eating the meals, I mean, what I do just food wise is a pain in the ass, but I'm just a product of my environment and it's what I do for a living, So at the end of the day, I wish sometimes I wasn't as anal as I am, but I don't think that will ever come out of me. I'll always feel a certain way about myself, dating back to the young Stephen.
You mentioned going to the gym with your father.
Yep.
When you first entered that gym, what do you think you were looking for, or what do you think younger Stephen found in that moment?
I thought it was my way just to get the fat off me to fit in with other kids. I'll date it back to this. When I started playing football, when I got, I think, to what was called mites back then, I don't remember my age. There was a weight limit. And I didn't know at the time I was overweight. And not one kid on the team was overweight but me. And I was a big kid. So it's funny. I was a big kid for a while. And then all the other kids, when we got a little older, shot up after me. I graduated at 17 from high school. So I was in that in between phase for a little while. But as a young boy, I was chubbier, is the word I would use, than most. And so that crushed me. So how this worked back then, I don't know if it's still like this now. I mean, hell, it was over 30 years ago. I had to strip down to my underwear to weigh in before every game and make the weight. So how I done it, a guy started taking me to the track every night, me and his son, because I was a good player for the team. I played both sides of the field. And he was like, we're gonna make the weight. And so we would run sprints, we would run laps. I'm not gonna lie, it like, it killed me. But it also ingrained in me that consistency and that there's a goal and you can achieve it. And so I finally made weight. And once you make weight enough times, you don't have to do it no more. And so I had gotten out and as a young boy, I'm like, I'm never going to be this guy. I'm never going to be embarrassed anymore about this. So I'm just going to continue. And I still live my life this way of like, no one can tell me it can't be done because even a young boy, I faced that adversity of having to make weight. The only person on the team, it's embarrassing. And so I'm like, when you felt that as a young boy, you don't want to feel it again growing up.
Growing up, you were part of a family restaurant. What lesson did your parents teach you that you didn't appreciate until years later as part of that experience?
Well, growing up as a family restaurant, that's like gift and curse because you never feel like you're getting paid enough. You never feel like you're getting your worth. You never feel like that you're pleasing your mom or dad. And I see now that I have children how that they can look at that. It was a very hard dynamic, but I do know now looking back, they were just not wanting me to repeat mistakes they had made or also doing the wrong, like stepping in the wrong direction. You only want the best for your kids. I see it now. The only thing, they never told me I had to do the restaurant, but it was all I knew. But I just wish they would have told me a little more to like always go in the direction I wanted to go, because I felt always compelled to go in the restaurant direction. That's why I preach to Manny all the time. Hey, Manny, I always want you to do what you want to do. It's very difficult when your whole family works together to, if you're fighting, you take that home with you. So I watched that growing up. I watched my mom and dad fight a lot. And so honestly, the best thing that ever happened to me is when we I left the family dynamic for a little while, and I learned systems and processes at another facility. And I think that was probably the best thing for my teenage years that happened to me, was leaving the family. And then I come back to the family dynamic, but you know, I'm thankful for both sides because I learned so much. I learned college without ever going to college through my parents, because the adversities they faced, I felt like I was facing them too, if that makes sense.
Your parents worked every day, correct?
Every day.
Watching your parents work every day, what did they teach you about success without ever said a word?
I watched them always want better, but I also watched them make some financially not good decisions, which taught me never to do that. So indirectly, when you're seeing something firsthand, it can teach you the biggest life lessons that you've ever seen. So like, I remember as a young boy, my parents, we grew up in about a 1,200 square foot house, family of four with one full bathroom. So I did not grow up with a silver spoon in my mouth or anything like that. It was a nice house. There was nothing wrong with it. It's all we knew. And we were happy. And so my father and my mom started building the house when I was 15. We moved when I was 16. And to what we considered, I would say, a mansion. It was 2 story. To me, a 2 story is a mansion back then. And when we moved, I saw them face a whole nother set of problems, financial problems. Like, hey, we're working our butts off and we built this house, but then these bills are coming in every month that we're struggling to pay. And I don't think understand it, but I didn't like seeing it, because I would see them yelling or see my mother cry. It's hard. It was hard because you've probably heard my son before say he just wants to help the family. Tried not to be emotional, but like things like this trigger me because I just wanted to help. And by helping, you become obsessed with work. And so I felt the need to not play sports. You know, it really lit a fire up me to be like, okay, I'm going to change the family's trajectory of financials. And I have. And, here we are. I was 16, 17 years old. I'm in my 40s, you know, and I look back and I'm like, so thankful I did that, but at what sacrifice? Because there was, a solid, you know, 20 years of very little going out, very little, I remember for 10 years straight being with Amber, my wife now, we're just dating, no dinners, no spending money on anything excess. Um, and it was just what I saw. But then the funny part about also what I saw, my dad would always say, we're going to work our ass off. We're going to work 100 hours a week, but we're going to drive a badass car. So I made that same stupid decision multiple times. So I'd go buy a car I can't afford, really, because I thought I deserved it. And I'm paying these high payments and I can barely make the payments of the car. And it put me in a bad spot sometimes. And I remember selling multiple vehicles to go better for the business. And I finally started getting smart. And then when I got smart, I remember I bought a pickup truck because I could use it for Superfitness gym equipment. And thank God I started getting out of like the materialistic things for a long time and realized I gotta do what's best for the business. And I still live my life this way.
It's funny you mentioned sort of your work ethic coming from a child or kid just wanting to help their family. Your good friend Mosey says this thing where he says champions are broken.
Yep.
They don't have an off switch.
Yep.
I've seen you work incredibly hard. Does that, because people, you'll go walk into a room and be like, how does Stephen work all these hours? And is that mostly where this comes from with these elite people? There's some level of trauma, or there's a kid in them that wanted to prove something. Is that where you would say, because your work ethic is incredible, like you work nonstop. Is that where it comes from?
I think it definitely stems from that. But I do think I watch my parents work very hard. And I see it in my son now because it's the total opposite of Manny. Manny is not growing up the way I did. He does not see financial hardship, if that makes sense. I did. Why is my son all summer, for 3 weeks when he got out of school before camp started, he worked in a hot warehouse, minimum 8 hours a day. And but to come with me, just so you know this, he's not allowed to be in the office and there's no iPads. He's not allowed to bring it. So it's like, Manny, you're working with the guys. And to preface this, I was raised this way. If I went to work at the restaurant, I washed dishes with the dishwasher. I learned from the other people, not just with my father. I was usually working with others. So I'm raising him the same way because you need to learn life skills from other people. And so my son's identical. So it's like, I don't know if it was just like I was born with this, with the high level work ethic, or if I just saw the hardships and wanted to do better. But I will tell you this, the very first time I heard Ed Mylett speak, I had watched on podcasts before. Amber had sent me many clips. And I remember hearing him in the crowd say, there's always the one that changes the family. And I'm sitting there, just eyes filled up with water, because I knew I'm the one. I'm it. And I think I knew it back then, that I'm going to do something so big to take care of, because I get more pleasure out of helping someone. Like, I love young hustlers, like even yourself, Daniel, my wife. Like, I get more pleasure out of helping other people than I do myself. I could go buy myself a materialistic thing or help feed someone else's family. I prefer this. See, a lot of people looking from the outside, they would think the opposite, because they'd be like, oh, he's got nice things. You truly don't know me. You're just judging me. Because if you knew the people around the world that I've helped, whether it's build a gym, and some people would say, oh, Stephen, well, you made money off the equipment. Yeah, I did. But go ask that person what I've done for them. I made them a lot of money every month because I gave them the knowledge, and I also gave them the belief that they could do it. Because so many people come to me and they're scared to death to do it. And I usually know within the first 5 minutes if that person's the right fit to do that business. And then when I tell them, like, hey, you can do this, you would be shocked hundreds of times that they're in my office and they'll just start bawling, grown men. And they're like, I needed to hear that, because no one's told them that ever, that they can do it. And looking back, I just knew I could do it. It wasn't that necessarily people told me, even though my father would always tell me, you're the best. You're going to, like, if I wasn't the best in baseball, go be the best you can be on that field. That's how you got to be. You ingrain that in your brain. And that's what, like, that grit, that determination comes from. I've always told everybody, in a fight, which I haven't fought anybody in yet. I don't want to fight anybody. But if I did, you're going to have to kill me, because I'm going to continue to rise up. I am, because I'm not gonna be beat. Meaning, like, you may beat me, but I'm gonna get up, and then you're gonna be like, it's gonna be like Rocky. Like, how is this guy continuing to get up? Like, I'm just that guy.
That ad by that, there's going to be one that's powerful. That
Yeah,
reminds me of, there's a Heraclitus quote that goes like, out of the 100 men that go to war, 10 shouldn't be there.
sure.
80 are just targets. 9 out of the 100 do most of the fighting, but one is a warrior. He will bring the others back. And it's a very powerful statement. So you mentioned before about growing up, you're like the heir to the throne, you're going to run the family business. What made you realize your life's work was helping people through fitness instead of the restaurant?
I thought I loved the restaurant, and then I found fitness. And so by the time I was 15, I competed in my first bodybuilding show. I had lost a lot of weight. I was by no means like Mr. in shape, but it was like a transformation type deal. And I loved it. I loved competing. I loved the process of it. I loved the diet. I loved the end goal of seeing something change. Literally night and day, people. You started here, you finished here. Loved it. And my cousin, well, the gym that I was going to, she married the owner, and I started working there as a young boy. I was already a member there for years, and so I almost felt like I worked there before I worked there, really. And then I started working there, and I didn't work there for the money. I made a lot more money working at the restaurant and doing waiting tables and bartending and doing other things. And I realized I didn't work there for the money. I loved it. I just enjoyed it. And I would work 10, 15 hours or 30 hours or for whatever they needed. It wasn't, and it didn't feel like work to me. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed cleaning the equipment. I learned a lot about equipment, and I was very obsessed with equipment, just the research of it, the biomechanics. I would study this. That's how I got good at my craft. You have to, if you're going to be the best editor and learn the craft, you better know the intricate details of if a split second can be edited out of a clip, and that makes that big a difference, you better know how to do that. That's me with gym equipment. And so I knew I wanted to do something in fitness. I just didn't know how. And I battled it for a long time. I actually bought and owned a restaurant for 3.5 years with Amber, um, a little over 13, 14 years ago now, because I thought, I'm Greek. I need to own a restaurant. And and I still owned my gym at the time, just so you know, but I battled this inside. And I'll never forget having this conversation. A man wanted to buy the restaurant, and I was going to sell it and walk out with nothing. The first time in my life that I had felt like defeated. The restaurant was becoming successful. It was paying the bills, it was making a little bit of money, but I was so in deep of other things, like I was putting no money in my pocket. And I talked to my dad, and the gym equipment was on the rise. And I saw the vision, and I didn't have the money to do what I'm doing, and or on the high level I'm doing it. But what it was, I took my eye off the prize of fitness because I thought it needed to be in the restaurant. And what ended up happening was my dad said, sell it, walk out. I'm like, Dad, I'm walking out with nothing. Basically, I was paying the bills off and walking out with the clothes on my back, nothing. And, but he gave me that confidence to do that. And I did it. It was the best decision I ever made because I went gung ho on the gym equipment, 100% full steam ahead, all my time, all my effort, all my money. And it tenfolded the business. Sometimes you got to go for passion. You can't go for money. Most people go for content. I like to live life on the edge of, if I know I'm scared to death to do it, that's what I need to do. Now, I'm not telling people to go jump off the cliff if you know it's going to kill you, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. So a lot of people see the success today, but very few understand what it took to get there.
Sure.
When you decided to open your first gym, what made you believe that you could actually do it when you almost had no money?
Man, so it was something that I dreamed about. It was something that I just knew. So I had women, older women, who were asking me to train them. And I wanted to make a difference. One lady in particular had double knee replacements, and I had a tanning salon at the time, and she asked me to train her. And I said, I told her, okay. It was like one of my first clients. And then I started training three of them together, three of her friends. So it was like three at once. I used to call them like my three stepmoms because like I loved these women. They were all in their 60s at the time. And I saw her go from, she was walking, but like she didn't have the strength like me and you have. And within a few months, it was a night and day woman. Night and day. Not from just a physical standpoint, but what she could do. And that was like a drug for me. Seeing somebody change was like better than buying me a gift because I made that difference in that person's life. I held them accountable. I loved her becoming confident within herself. When you can build confidence within someone, that is something you can't just go and pay for. You have to do that through hard work, through words of affirmation, just the whole nine. And so for me, when I started seeing that, I had to have more of it. And that's what I still, to this day, I mean, I've been doing this for over 20 years now, working in a gym, I think 27 years, owning one next year, 21 years. It is something I still today, I always say my prayer is like, God, lead me to people who need my help. It's not, hey, I want to make more money. Hey, I want to make X amount today. That's the old many, many year ago, Stephen. It's what can I do to help someone today? When people look at me from the outside in, I think they see the complete opposite. They see the material things. They see the fleshly things because that's where most people's mind goes. They're looking at the end goal of money. I feel like the money is the byproduct of doing good things, and then people are so attracted to you, you make plenty of money. It's the opposite.
Going back to you opening that first gym, what did the first 6 months actually look like when nobody was watching?
Pain and suffering. No money, couldn't pay my rent, um, swiping sometimes my own credit card for $500, going to get the money out of the bank the next day to go pay the power bill, praying literally daily that somebody would pay me or to attain a new client to go pay another bill that I'm owed. At one point, I was over $55,000 in credit card debt, and I've documented this many times before. And I'll go into a little more detail. When you're sitting working 15 to 18 hours a day, and you're at home 4 to 5, and you're sleeping, you get home, and there's no food, and you don't have the credit card no more to go swipe for a meal. And back then, there were places I could eat for $5, $6, $7. And I remember always having a loaf of bread, peanut butter, and jelly. That was my backup. And I sold supplements at the time. So I would typically have like a 5-pounder of protein powder. And my good friends at the time owned, they wasn't big at the time, but they were becoming one of the biggest supplement dealers. So thank goodness, like I had a hookup on protein. So my backup, I would literally have 3 to 4 protein shakes a day for my protein. And if I had to, and I still love them to this day, I make fun of it because it's emotional for me at the time. It's scary. But I had, peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. And those like gave me that fat that I needed because I was starving. And when I say I was starving, because every dollar I had went back into the business. I had no money. So I'm like trying to pay. And on the outside, people around town are looking at me like, man, this kid's rolling. He owns this business. He drives a nice car. He's always got a good looking girlfriend. But on the inside, I don't want anybody to know my struggles. So I'm just appearing this big macho in shape guy because I'm scared to tell anybody. I don't want my appearance to change. I want you to think I got money. And in reality, I'm like being choked, like I can't sleep. I see the vision. I know I'm going to be successful. I'm going to work till I can't work anymore. But when is it going to happen? And it's never in our times. I know that for a fact. It's always because every time I thought I was going to become successful, I hit another roadblock every single time. Honestly, when I stopped worrying about the success, I feel like is when the success come. And I had to take my ego and my emotions out of it and humble myself. And there were several things down the path that humbled me. And I think it was just God telling me, hey, you're going to be okay, but you've got to live life on the straight and narrow. And I'm thankful for those things.
So you were carrying all this financial pressure, but from the outside, people were thinking, this guy's doing really well.
Sure.
How lonely was it carrying the burden that almost nobody could see?
Yeah, super lonely because I remember one night showing up. We were all going out, showing up to a nightclub, and there was like 30 people that was like my entourage, and they were all expecting me, like we were all getting in, and the promoter or whatever at the club come up to me, and I was like a big deal locally, and I was very popular at the time. And there was a lot of people who loved Steven and a lot of people that also rode his coattails and just wanted to be around Steven for the success of what they thought. And I remember that night, the owner, promoter, something come up to me and was like, hey, Steven, I can let, you and 5 guys in, but everybody else has got to pay. And I'm like, okay. And all of them are looking at me to pay. And so I'm stuck. I want to say I think the promoter said, hey man, I'll let them all in for $300. And I think I've got like $400 in my pocket, which is my bill money to pay bills. And so me being me, I don't want to let nobody down because I'm a people pleaser. I go pay everybody. That really put me in a bind that night for the rest of the week to pay my bills. And looking back, not one of those people are here with me now. None. When I stopped going out, most of those people faded away, stopped texting, stopped calling. I think that also organically happens. I'm not, if anybody watches this, it's nobody in particular. I'm not mad at anyone. But like when you really sometimes look at someone, you don't know what's going on. No one ever asked me back then if I was okay. Are you financially okay? Being transparent, I don't know if I would have told them the truth of my financials. Um, you know, I don't even know at the time how many credit cards I had. Let's call it 6 to 10 at all times. When a minimum payment comes in of one of those, when you've got a lot of money on there, and let's just say it's $408, and you have $100 to your name, and you got to come up with 408 plus other bills are coming in, it's really scary when you're young. And I had a lot of financial pressure to provide for the family because I was basically partners later with my father in our nightclub, and I'm looking like, okay, I got to support my dad, I got to support my mom. And looking back, I know that my father was thinking the opposite. I'm sure that he was supporting me because he's paying me, but my job was to make that business busy, and it was all my contacts, all my parties. It was a total, not only financial strain on me and the family, but it was a very stress. I always tell people I lost half the hair on my head because I had a lot of stress. And I don't even think I've been removed from that business for 14 years. And looking back, I don't think I realized at the time because I was young how stressful it was for me. You don't ever see, you got blinders on sometimes. You don't see the financial or the stresses of life till you're removed from it. And you're like, what the hell was I thinking? But
You mentioned earlier about detaching from the idea of success kind of helped you. I feel like a lot of entrepreneurs attach their identity to the business. If it's doing well, they're happy. If it's not doing well,
yep.
did you do that? And anyone who's watching that's going through that, what advice do you have for them in terms of overcoming tying your identity to the business?
Yeah, I did. When we first got into the nightclub business, I felt like I needed to be the key front man of the business. Almost like, I'll put it in terms of like a rock band. And a rock band has the girls singing and lining up for them every night, I felt like I needed to be that guy. I need to show off for other guys coming to the club that I'm the man. And then I need to have girls all the time lined up for me. And I don't know if it was for my own egotistical, or I just felt like that was going to draw more people in the club. I'm not real sure looking back. And it was probably a mixture of things, because it was, in a sense, a very fun but very toxic environment, in the sense of, I was young. We all young and stupid at one time. I got into the nightclub business at 19 years old. So here we are. I'm got a little muscle on me. I'm working out nonstop. My look is everything. Now all of a sudden, no girls wanted me at 13 years old. I'm overweight, 12 years old. Now girls want me? Whoa. And I'm the owner of a nightclub? It was just like stacked for success and a lot of drama. And I took every advantage of it at the time. And at the time, I loved it. And then I didn't realize the stress of it. And I remember meeting Amber. I was around 20, I was 23, almost turning 24. And she's dealing with this. And I would tell her everything. Every girl I'd been with, there was no lies, full transparency. And I'd also tell my wife now, who was my girlfriend then, hey, I don't want to date you. Because she was so good, I didn't want to hurt her. Because I knew, I'm like, I've hurt every other girl. I don't want to hurt you. And I always tried to be honest with any girl I was seeing. There was so many times I tried to be good. And I would tell, there was a handful of girls who I cared deeply about, who I didn't want to hurt. So I would just tell them straight up, like, hey, I'm in the nightclub business. I can't have a girlfriend. And I know they cared, but I don't think I was in the right mindset till I got a little older. And then I met Amber, who was deep in her Bible, who's like, okay, I don't even know if she knew what to think of me. But at that point, she was kind of coaching me without coaching me. Like, hey, you need to figure this out. You need to go down this lane. And so by having that little jab on the right side of my brain, when you know you're doing something wrong, but it's not really wrong, the rest of the world's doing it, it's wrong for you. You need somebody to be in your corner. And so thank God she started steering me more on the straight and narrow, because I technically wasn't doing anything wrong. I just wasn't living the godly path I know I needed to live. Because I'm a very consistent, very straight-edged person. And that's where I think I'm misconstrued sometimes, because I've been into some businesses where people would look at me wrong. And I'm very straight-laced in a sense. I try not to do wrong. I try to be good to everybody, even though I'm hated by lots for no reason, because I think they're stereotyping versus literally listening to my words and understanding, I'm not who you think I am. But
For the viewer watching, to push you, there's someone watching this whose identity is tied to the business, in the sense of things are stressful in the business, they're stressful. They can't detach from business to personal life. As someone that's been doing in business for 20, maybe even 30 years, how do you detach? And how do you sort of mentioned there about detaching from the idea of success kind of give you more peace, what would you say? So what's your advice to someone going through that right now?
the last 2 years of that particular business, it was stopped being fun. I started dreading it more than loving it. And I realized I needed to make a switch, and fast. And me and Amber went through a lot of trials and tribulations. And I realized I was going to lose probably the best thing that ever happened to me. And I needed to make a decision. And so my father, I could tell, was distraught too. And we were kind of like this sometimes. Financially, we're not doing well. I had other businesses going on that I'm not giving my all in, because I'm so focused over here trying to make something work that I don't love anymore. When you fall out of love with your baby, what I considered at the time my baby, because it was mine and my father's business, it's very hard to give your full blown effort 24/7. And so I think that's when you know deep inside your gut when it's time to pull the plug. When something becomes not fun and you dread doing it, you need to detach. And I knew, I just didn't know how to get out of it. And the time come where we had the opportunity, and be very transparent, I walked away with very little on that one too. And so did my father. Um, Not for anybody's fault. It was just the way it all went down. And at the end of the day, I'm thankful for that part of my life though, because it was fun. I loved it at one time. It just become, but you got to know when to detach. If you stay another 10 years in something you hate, you're probably going to become unsuccessful.
A lot of people watching this are trying to find the right business or thinking, am I in the right business? We spoke about the nightclub business, the restaurant business.
Sure.
Do you think the equipment business found you or you found it? And how does someone know when they found the right business?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I definitely think the equipment business found me. So nobody was doing it the way I was doing it. And so when I opened my gym, that's another whole story in itself, but I'm buying and selling pieces of equipment, making $0. Loved it. And what I found out was if I bought a piece for, let's call it $500, at the time, the economy was in a terrible state. Money was very hard for people. Gas had shot up to $4 or $5 a gallon back then, which was very expensive back then when I was opening. We were in an economy crisis. And I realized when I opened my gym, if I had three pieces and I went to sell one and I bought this piece for $500, I used it for 6 months and I sold it to get another piece and I sold it for $500. I got my money back. I used it for free. Wow, this is great. It was never about money. I put it to you like this. If everybody could drive a Ferrari or a Lamborghini for free, keep it and sell it for the same price you paid, I think everybody would be driving badass cars because you drove them for free. So that's the way I started looking at gym equipment. And I loved it. And I loved just swapping equipment all the time. And I started realizing my members loved it. They're like, man, Steven's always getting new. And it started attracting more people to my business. He's always getting equipment. And I was putting in the work. I'm driving all up and down the East Coast buying equipment and all this stuff. And, um, there again, that's Amber. I'm building a little business without knowing I'm building it. Sometimes somebody looking from the outside sees more potential than you see it. Um, and she was like, you love equipment. Like you get fired up about it. Why are you not doing this for a living? And I'm like, oh, because equipment's not going to make no money. And she's like, Steven, you're selling this stuff, technically losing money. If you need to factor at least in your gas. So it started off, let me just at least pay for my gas money. And I had a doctor one time who I sold a piece to, who I saved several $1,000s. And he asked me very point blank, Steven, did you make any money off me? And I said, no, sir. And very transparent, this is many, many years ago. I felt guilty making any money off a friend or a client or anything. I just felt guilty about it. You're my friend. You're my brother. You're my this. I don't want to make any money off you. I still, to this day, if somebody's local, feel guilty selling them something, making money. I don't know why. It's just something in me. I always want to help people. My wife's so similar. And so, but he looked at me dead in the eyes and he said, Steven, I was about to buy the same machine for $3,000 more dollars. He said, you saved me X amount of money. Never feel guilty for making money. I would have been happy to pay more for the machine because I'm still saving so much. And the light bulb kind of went off in my head to be like, you're right. I'm the one finding it, locating it, killing my body, moving gym equipment's not easy. So I'm like, I should be paid in a sense. And I stopped feeling guilty. But when you become successful, people will make you feel guilty because they didn't put the work in you put in. We all have the same time and opportunity. I was just willing to go get it. I tell people all the time, I don't think I'm the smartest person in the world. I have no college education. I'm very street smart, but I've told you before, you got to show me how to do something. I'll figure it out. I'm not the one. I have a guy who works for me, Bryce. You can put the puzzle in a million pieces or the piece in front of him. He'll figure out how to build it. That is not me. I don't work that way. I need somebody to show me. Now, after you show me one time, normally I can do it, but I need to be shown.
It's funny you mentioned about not making money initially on the pieces that you were selling.
Sure.
You've built your business on relationships instead of transactions. Where does that philosophy come from?
So for years, little boy growing up in the restaurant business, seeing the same customer eat there daily, over and over. Or when I got older, we had a white tablecloth restaurant called Cafe Acropolis. Seeing the same couple come in every Friday or Saturday, eat almost the same food for date night. My father would take me out of the kitchen and be like, "Steven, come here. I got to introduce you to Bob." And he'd make me shake their hand at a young boy, and I used to get so embarrassed. I'm covered in food with an apron. But I'd see these same people over and over to the point you're like, "Hey, Bob, how are you doing? So good seeing you, sir." And he sees this young kid hustling and he says, "Boy, you're going to be something one day." And so I started becoming more confident as I got older, asking these things. So I'd see them pull up in a big body Mercedes or a new Corvette or something in my dad's restaurant. I'd start picking their brain a little bit. Like, "Hey man, if you don't mind me asking, what do you do for a living?" "Oh, I run a big insurance firm. I do this, I do that." And you're telling me I'm going to be successful. What makes you successful? And I start having these tutorials from these very high level people, ingraining confidence in me. And they would all tell me the same thing. "Steven, shake hands, network, build relationships. I'm 15 years old at the time. They're 55. This is going to take you on a next level adventure." And so I just kept listening to these type of people, including my father. Shake hands, do. And still to this day, you've heard me, I preach this to people. Go step in the room, introduce yourself, and shake hands. You never know who you're going to meet. And then the beautiful thing is who person one is going to introduce you to. Sometimes they don't even got to introduce you. You just got to be with them in the room and then be around that group. And then those other people see you with that person, and it's that powerful. That's it.
So after serving customers for over 20 years, what's something you've learned about human nature that every business owner should understand?
Take care of those people that take care of you. I feel like it's a lost art form. I was telling somebody the other day that me and my wife now live in a very nice home. I'm proud of it. We bought it 11 years ago, and we've honestly been renovating, I feel like, ever since. And I feel like some people pull up to do work and they'll see dollar signs. "Oh, I need to charge that guy." I have the complete opposite mentality because I try to be fair with everybody, because I know if I do a good job for that person that's got a lot of money, he's going to refer me to his network of people. If you can be referred to his network of people, that's a network you can tap into. We can't just make the call sometimes to the president if we wanted to. We can't. But if we know someone who knows him, sometimes that's all it takes to link you. So I wish people understood the value of relationships more and understood long term versus short. I always tell people, you'll never see Steven hit a home run. You'll always see me hit a single. Fair and long term business. Never short term with somebody feels like I ripped them off or something. I want long term business, and it has propelled me so much further in life. I've bent over backwards for people. And I want to say this, you're never going to win with everybody, because there's always going to feel somebody that feels a certain way or something you can't please them, and that's okay. But for the majority, I'd say 95%, slow and steady wins the race.
People see the warehouses now, they don't see Craigslist ads at 3 a.m. What does obsession actually look like when you're trying to build something from nothing?
Yeah, when you're in the grind or in the upcoming phases, I feel like every influential person who I've ever talked to, who I respect, says there's no balance in the grind. You know, I used to say, oh man, I kind of missed my teenage years. I worked. Man, I missed all my 20s. I really worked. I was the only kid on the weekends. I'm running a nightclub. People used to say, Steven, it's got to be fun. I worked nonstop while y'all were all drinking and partying. Now, that's a gift and curse in a sense, because I wasn't drinking and I wasn't partying. My drinking and partying had to come on like a Wednesday night or Thursday if I didn't work, but I always preferred to work if I could. It's one of them things where I think that short-term sacrifice for long-term gain, and looking back, it was very hard in the moment, um, because I think sometimes I wish that I just was normal back then and I didn't do those things, because I almost was bitter about it. I just wanted to be like everybody else. But then looking back now at not only what I've created, but the people who are with me in my circle of, like, my right hand, Bryce, he worked for me 20 years. Like, he's got a beautiful house. Like, I'm so proud of him. I love seeing that. I love taking the people with me. Most people don't see that. Like, I wish more people actually were loyal in this world, because if they were loyal for 20 years, most people will take them with them on the journey. But somebody wants to be taken with them at year 2, at year 3. You haven't you haven't put the work in 2, 3 years that I put in the past 25 years for me to know you're loyal. And not just me, this is anybody listening to this, any employer. People want the satisfaction now. They're not willing to wait. It is a long-term play. There's so many job hoppers now that is a problem in the world. I just feel like there's no balance in the grind, and you have to work your ass off. And I suggest anybody, if you have no children and you're not married, grind it out. It will pay you tenfold the repayment in 10 to 20 years. You will be leaps and bounds above every one of your friends.
Everyone talks about hard work. Everyone's heard hard work beats talent. Everyone's heard hard work only comes before success or in the dictionary.
Uh,
As someone who's worked hard all their life, what does it actually look like? Like, what does it look like when you're working hard and in the grind?
so I remember sometimes working till 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, waking back up and having my first training client at 7 a.m. Barely sleeping, trying to have a girlfriend, trying to still go out with a friend, go out at midnight, come home 2 o'clock in the morning, eat again, you're amped up from going out and then barely going to sleep. Or I remember moving gym equipment till 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning and still having to meet that training client at 7 or 6, or not sleeping at all. Me and Amber always laugh about it. We don't know how we done it, to be honest with you. It was that difficult. I think when you're in the rat race of life and your back is against the wall and you have zero body to turn to, like, people will say, oh, but you can ask your mom and dad. I'm Greek. Anybody who knows, like, most Greek people, like, my father was like, hey, Steven, here's $20. I need the $20 back tomorrow. Like, there's no borrowing. So, like, he wanted the money back if I asked. So I chose usually not to ask. There were several points in times in my life where I had some big things happening and I had turned to my father, but instantly paid him back if it was even necessary. But when things got bigger, I couldn't go ask dad. and nor would I have, because I would have been putting him in a bind. That was desperation only. And, you know, I don't think people understand when you have your back against the wall like that and there's no one to turn to. What else can you do but work 3, 4, 5 jobs? There was never a point that me and Amber wasn't bartending, waiting tables, something for excess money, plus selling gym equipment, plus running a gym, plus selling real estate. I remember sometimes being made fun of almost if somebody saw me at, like, I remember doing a catering event for my uncle one time. And so I would make tips, and then I think like he would pay me $100. And so I'm like kind of the guy serving drinks and food at a wedding, at a catering. And I remember somebody being drunk saying, "Hey man, you own businesses. What the hell are you doing this for?" And I looked at him and I said, "For the extra money. I'm just trying to get ahead." But in the moment, it made me feel like, what am I doing this for? Made me feel bad. Like, do I need the $100 that bad? But I was always that overachiever. If there was $100 to be made, I was going to go make it. I've always said I'm not too good to go shovel ditches. Like if shit happened tomorrow, whatever I got to do to make it, I'm going to make it. I will not fail. That's the problem with people. They feel like I'm too good to do this. If you're raised with a silver spoon, you need to rip that sumbitch out from you and go work on a normal everyday job to learn what it's like to have nothing. Because I think in that moment, if you've done that for 1 year, it would teach you more than you could have ever learned growing up. Because when you're stripped and have nothing, like my back's been against the wall so many times, failure is not an option. It never will be. And I'm raising my daughter and son. We'll point at my kids sometime and right here. And I'm like, right here, Manny, it's all in your head. Like you can do anything. And a lot of times Manny will say, "Dad, stop. I know." When you're pounded something in your head like I was from a little boy 1,000 times over, the kid will never forget it. And now sometimes I'll see him talking to like somebody and he'll almost mimic me. He don't even realize he's doing it because it's ingrained in his brain. It's in his DNA.
In that grind, did you consider quitting? And if so, what made you stop? Maybe it is that will to not quit, and maybe
Yeah.
it was the fact you were drilled in
Yeah.
as a child. But I feel like the people are watching this that are
Sure.
going through that,
Mm.
because everyone sees the success stories. Okay, he hustled, he grinded, he got success, but people are actually in it right now and they're considering, should I quit? Should I give up? What made you keep going?
Yeah. So I'll reference this story. This was during the process, I think, of having children. So I'm going to date this back going on about 10 years ago. My gym, I got to the point where my body wasn't what I wanted it to look like. I had knee replacement going on 7 years ago now, almost 8. And I was having a lot of knee problems that was going into the hip and lower back. It was causing me a lot of problems. The gym was not my primary focus. Superfitness gym equipment was. And I was getting discouraged to go to my own gym, partly because of me, partly because it was not the success that I envisioned. And I used to say things I didn't mean to Amber of, I should just sell this place and just focus on the gym because it would have made it easier. Or just focus on gym equipment. I don't need a gym. I build gyms. And the problem with it was I was doing everything the opposite of what I was telling people to do. My gym had become my own little playground, and I didn't like other people coming. I didn't like it being busy. I wasn't putting the equipment that I was telling other people to put because I like the old stuff. But I need a rehaul. I need to do X, Y, and Z that I know to do, but I'm not. Why am I not listening to my own advice? And sometimes you got to have an outsider look in, or you need to look in the mirror to realize what the problem is. And so, literally out of the blue, I'm like, okay, we had some competition coming in town that put a fire up my ass. I'm like, okay, these people think that they can run me out of business. I'll show them, and I needed that. Competition is good sometimes because we get complacent. The gym was making money slash paying its bills. It was not hitting the home run. And I was just discouraged thinking like, why does people not see what I see? And sometimes it just takes more time and it took a little more effort from me. And talking about your back against the wall, when you build something that's your baby and it's not doing what you think it's can do, the only person you can blame is you. Because I love when people say, oh, it's the economy. Oh, it's the market. Oh, it's this. If you really go around and go leaps and bounds above everybody else, the business is there for the taking. You just got to go take it.
Okay, so you've built multiple businesses. Looking back, what did you spend time worrying about that you now see first-time entrepreneurs worrying about, even though in hindsight it never actually mattered?
Uh, the fear of judgment that I used to put upon myself that others thought of me. That always impaired me. I don't know why. I felt like I needed to drive the nice car around. I can't go backwards, even though it's killing me to drive that car financially. Oh, I need to have this. I need to have a different girl every month. Why? Who says I can't be with one beautiful girl and a married man? But oh, he need. I had let other people put things in my brain for what apparent reason I don't know, but it was in my brain, and I'm smarter than that. Looking back, I'm like, what the hell was I thinking? And so even now, I will hear things about myself. Let's just say locally, the person who's talking about me don't know me like that, maybe hasn't talked to me in years. They're only seeing something that they've heard or seen something on social media that they assume. I'll give you a prime example. The clip about me helping the homeless man at Chipotle. I have gotten so much positive feedback from that and so much hate. I've had people tell me you should have gave them more money. So I said in the first podcast um, that I gave the man $100 bill. That's the way it come out of me. In the moment, I think I gave the guy two $100 bills, just so you know that. But the point was, I shouldn't even have said a dollar amount because no matter what I said, people will write, oh, you can't get a hotel room for that. All I was trying to say was, I was trying to help a man in need. That's it. It shouldn't matter how much I gave him. Okay, I didn't give him enough. Oh, I gave him too much. Or I shouldn't have gave him anything. I have a good heart. And I was just trying to help somebody. So if you're going to knock a man who helped another man, shame on you. But things like that bothered me at first when I hear them. Now I'm starting to let things go in one ear, not the other. So in the gym business, it's hard to please people with the temperature and it's hard to please people with the radio. What's playing? Oh, this guy likes country, this guy likes hip hop, this guy likes rock. What station do you play? So we play a mixture of music. We do our best. So now, my biggest advice for anybody listening is let the words of others who don't matter go in one ear and out the other. Because your core group of the people you love and trust is who. Now, if one of those people come up to you and say, hey, man, you're messing up, you're going on the left path and you need to be going down the right, you probably need to listen. So I only listen to people now that are in that tight circle.
Okay, so you talk about hard work and working 100 hours a week. As an entrepreneur, how do you know you're actually moving the business forward and not just staying busy for busy's sake?
Yeah, that's a good question. So when kids came along, it changed my perspective of time because I think until you have something like that, that your time becomes you want to be there for your kids, but you have to prioritize your time. Me and Amber sometimes look at each other and we're like, what did we do with our time before we had children? I had to literally start doing 12 hours worth of work in 7 hours or 8 hours, or making sure that I'm diligent with every minute that I'm working. So usually all day now, I'm in the office making contacts, phone calls, Zooms, acquiring the equipment, working the deals. I've had to it's become a full-time job for me to make sure that I'm doing that office work, which I'll say this on camera, which part of my job, I hate that part because I love dealing with the interactions of customers and dealing with people. But it's part of my job to make sure that I have to have an inventory. And right now it's very difficult to get certain inventory. So I'm always trying to forecast the future, and it takes a lot of time. And by doing this, I think I've gotten much better at making sure I wake up in the morning, I'm doing my emails, my social media. I still get my cardiovascular in the morning. Lord forbid I can't do it in the afternoon. I at least got the best thing I can do is tell people small wins every day. So like I like to check off the boxes. Okay, eat a good breakfast. Check 1. Morning cardio. Check 2. If you're a coffee drinker, drink you a cup of coffee to get going. Check 3. Start lining off the wins from the time you wake up. Okay, you have 6 emails to get back. Do it immediately. I like that. I like getting it done and knocked out. If you don't check your email all day and now there's 15 email back, it becomes overwhelming in my head to be like, where do I start? Who do I email back first? So I like checking little boxes off all day. My wife's very similar to me. And especially when you have the children come into play or a lot of clients, any kind of business you're in, if it's especially a service-based business, you have people probably contacting you all day or in sales. You need to, if you let that text message get back and you have 100 people to text back, that's a problem to try to do it in a timely manner. So check small boxes off all day, and I promise you it will like propel you so much forward with time management.
In terms of checking boxes, there's a never-ending to-do list for entrepreneurs. How do you know what to prioritize?
Good question too. Prioritization to me is difficult in a sense because I'm a people pleaser. And I sometimes used to focus on things that I shouldn't focus on. So now I'm very much better at letting one thing go in the ear and out the other that doesn't matter or shouldn't matter, that shouldn't take my time. And so I think we all get in the rat race where we're focused on something. I'll give you a prime example, and this will shock most people. I don't even know if I've ever said this on camera. Usually after the morning cardio and my morning social media, I sometimes, unless you write me on business, a message that will pop up, I'm not on social media pretty much all day till the night when I'm either after my workout and if I do cardio again or before bed. The reason being, I started finding myself being distracted from my own social media. And a lot of people have come up to me with big social media followings. And they're like, man, I'm spending 5 hours a day scrolling. Let's just take 1 hour a day scrolling. If you took that 1 hour to call 20 people and you had a 2 to 3, 4 minute phone call each with just a few people, and that landed you 1 client or 1 sale over the course of a month, and you got 1 client a day, that's 30 new clients. So that time management is super valuable. We all have the same time in the day. How should we spend it? So when I'm at the warehouse, I'm very diligent on getting my stuff done at all cost. And I had to block that out of my day. There's a time and place for it. If somebody's writing me on there about gym equipment and sales, that's part of the business, I do my best to answer that fast. But as far as scrolling, I think we all really need to do a better job of not wasting time on things that don't matter.
I think to as entrepreneurs, because we have such a huge to-do list, you can avoid the big thing. We're doing the small things and think you're being busy.
Sure.
But usually the magic you're looking for is the stuff you're avoiding. So it's like eat the frog, do the big. No one wants to do emails or sales or whatever it may be. So yeah, 100% in terms of that prioritization. So say somebody's starting to gather a few clients, they're doing well in they're doing well for themselves. How do you know when it's time to hire someone versus when you should just keep doing it yourself?
I had to learn this the hard way because my dad was a self to do person, and we mowed our own grass. We changed our own oil in our cars. I learned to do all these things I wanted to do. I felt as a man that we need to do X, Y, and Z as men. And I had several people at a young boy's age pour into me and saw how hard I was working. And they're like, "Hey, Steven, how much do you make over here? And let's just take $20, for instance." He said, "If you can go make $20 during this hour, but it's going to take you 3 hours to change your own oil, and you're going to have nowhere to dispose of it. And back in the day, you could go get your oil changed relatively cheap. Let the person who's great at it change the oil. Let them make the money, and you go do what you're good at." And it changed my way of thinking a little bit. So now I prioritize those things of, if I make more money working at my business in 3 hours in sales over here, let this person do what they're good at over here. It's no different with social media. If it took me, let's just say, 4 hours to edit a video that could take somebody else 30 minutes because that's their specialty, you're probably better off letting somebody else edit that video. So I've learned through my own navigating of life what to prioritize, what to not. I am not a super handy person. It's going to take me 5 times longer to do certain things than to let some of my friends do it. So now I just pay to get those services done for me. And that's called being smart, not being lazy, I just make more money doing what I'm good at. And then also, I'll say this, I love helping others. So if you're good at what you do, or my detail guy who does my cars is good at what he does, let me invest in him and help him. It makes me feel good to do that. And then it also helps a younger person. I remember when I was young, helping me, and they saw my work ethic and they would invest in me, and it always made me feel good. So that's another reason I do certain things, is it's not just of my own lack, it's helping another small family or small business owner start business. I enjoy seeing that.
What do you think is the biggest mistake entrepreneurs make when hiring their first employees?
I think that they think they're going to just be on the level of you, and they're not. And when I say that, no one's going to care more about the business than you. You're the owner. They should. Now, if you hire somebody that is a commission-based person, let's just take sales, and they have some skin in the game, I definitely can see people caring almost as much or as much because they have some skin in the game. Money makes the world go round. Let's get real here. So, but I really feel like a lot of people says, "Okay, I'm going to pay this guy $50,000. He's going to do all the work and I can go to the beach. Peace out. See ya." Work doesn't work that way. Me and my wife never have an off switch. We are working around the clock, whether we're at the beach, wherever. Honestly, I can't even tell you the last time I went to the beach. That's sad. Like, our work trips, as you know, are maybe a dinner out, and we're real estate or fitness related. That's kind of vacation to me and Amber. Um, I think people really think that they can run companies off of other people, but there still has to be somebody running or driving the ship. There's got to be somebody implementing leadership. And I'm a drill sergeant at work, and anybody will tell you. And that can be a gift and curse, because I always warn people who work for me. I'm like, "Hey, I'm different outside the workplace than I am in the workplace. I'll give you the shirt off my back, but I demand a lot while we're at work." And so, but I'm always at work. So they see that. It's not like I'm just off out bullshitting around. I'm doing the work too. There's got to be somebody in there making sales so that everyone gets paid. That's my job.
So you mentioned it's easier with something like a sales commission based. How do you get that same level of hunger to do well if it just is a salary? Is there certain things that you do with the employees that you have to kind of get that hunger?
I've watched my wife be very good at this, and I'm not nearly as good at this. Building that culture for the right team, doing events, or like my wife's for 20 years. I've seen her. Well, we've been together going on 19. Bringing something as little as coffees to work. Me and my guys a couple years ago started a thing that like every day somebody was like bringing a different energy drink or something to work. And I did see at the time the guys' eyes light up. So like Amber sometimes will bake a cake and I'll bring that to the warehouse, like the leftovers of it. And the guys are like, oh man, I can't wait to eat that for lunch. Little things make a world of difference. And so even for my future goals, I've got little things like that wrote down that I want to strive to be better at. Even as little as sending a text message. I said this to myself a few months ago. I wanted to start sending 3 texts a day just to friends or clients saying, hey man, saw you at the football game with your son on social media. Love that you're being a good dad. Like complimentary things, nothing to do with business. I need to be better at that. Hey, happy birthday. Sometimes I'm so focused on business, I'm not one that compliments or not ones that goes online and writes that. Now, I'm the first, if I see you and you look great, I'm the first to tell somebody. I'm the first to buy dinner. I do a lot of things right, but I also do a lot of things wrong. And I'm the first to admit it, but nobody's perfect. But I think by doing those little things, it makes a big difference in the workplace.
If you were to walk into a struggling business tomorrow, what's the first thing you try to understand before making any changes?
What type of business?
Any business in general, say it's struggling, what do you want to get to grips with first before you make any decisions or changes?
The first thing when I go to a gym, and I've never been to a certain gym, and the owner's asking me, hey, I've got problems. I won't even ask him what the problems are. Let me observe. And I normally can pinpoint things out within the first 2 minutes because I can see, I walk right in, and I'm just using a gym as an example because that's what I do for a living. And there's nobody greeting me. The person's on social media just scrolling. He don't even know somebody's walking in. That's a bad look right there. The place is dirty from the get-go. The cooler of drinks is not got no drinks in it hardly. There's nothing for me to buy. It doesn't feel inviting. There's no music in the background noise playing. It's pitch quiet. It feels awkward to walk in. Little things. Here's the front counter, and I see the glute booty equipment right there at the front. Totally wrong place for that. Now women are not going to feel comfortable to work out in that front area. I've literally noticed the lighting's not good. The walls haven't been touched up in 5 years. Place ain't been painted. No toilet paper or hand soap in the bathrooms. These are little things that I can pick up on within seconds. This could be a restaurant. If I walk in your restaurant and the bathrooms are filthy with no toilet paper, hand soap, or paper towels, I will probably never go back to eat there because I'm going to think the kitchen's filthy. Your first impressions when you walk in a business are everything. And so I'm big on somebody walks into my business, hi, how are you? A greeting. I don't care how somebody does it. And a bye. It goes such a long way to shake hands and just greet someone. Customer service is everything. So
you kind of mentioned it there, but what is the biggest mistake businesses make when it comes to keeping customers? Because the gym-based business is a retention game.
Sure.
So what's the biggest mistake they make? Is it not paying attention to them small details that make the huge difference?
Sure. I think, first of all, back in the day, the equipment's the utmost important. Most people years ago in business, for some reason, was set it and forget it mentality. We're going to buy all the equipment, one brand, spend a shitload of money, and never touch it again. Here they go 10, 15, 20 years later, other competition comes into town. You've not What reason have you given me to stay? You've not put a dollar in this place in 15 years versus constantly adding value to the gym, swapping some stuff out, keeping things. I have my gym touch up painted about every quarter just to keep things fresh. There's hundreds of people coming in and out every day. The walls are going to get dinged. I have my HVAC serviced. I want to keep it cool. I constantly, whatever the new drinks are, we're constantly going to get them. Whatever the new bar is, the brownie, whatever cookie, we're going to get the protein. That makes the difference. I always want to be the trend setter, not the trend forgetter. I don't want my clients coming in and saying, hey, Steven, the gym down the road's got all new stuff. You're behind the 8 ball. Oh, no. That nowadays, in the time that we're living, convenience and it's too powerful right here in our fingertips. They're seeing the new stuff constantly. You got to put it in that business. So the set it and forget it method is long gone.
What's a piece of business advice that's repeated all the time, but you completely disagree with?
I don't like that saying anymore, fake it till you make it.
Okay.
I think you need to be about and stand on your business. So like I see a little bit when you're 19 years old and you're trying to fit in, and let's just say you opened a business at 19 and you really don't know who you are. I can see where that, and you're trying to be about the business. If you're educating yourself and learning, I can see that fake it till you make it saying. But at my age, at 40 some years old, if I'm known as one of the best in my field of expertise, I need to be and play that part. I need to do the work. I need to research the equipment. I need to be the trendsetter. And I need to go above and beyond the needs of my clients. Period. If I don't, it's all on me. So half my week sometimes on my own time at home is on Google studying. A lot of people don't know. I don't think I've ever even said that on camera. I research a lot. So I'll be very transparent. I didn't know shit about social media. So I started learning social media, not because I wanted to, because I needed to get better at it. Nothing's worse than when you're known as someone and people coming up to you being like, man, what's your social media? Nobody knows who you are, except for somebody else telling them. They can't find you. Because nowadays people equivalent that with success. And so I needed to learn that. I don't think I had to be like the best editor or anything like that, but I needed to know a somewhat skill set that I could at least make a video and post it myself. So I started doing research and learning and watching tutorials. I couldn't tell you how many hours I spent doing that because I wanted to at least know a little bit. And it made a big difference a few years ago in my social media. And it's baby steps, no different than in business. I had a kid the other day ask me, Steven, I want to get into the gym business. I said, okay, have you ever worked at a gym? No. I said, go get a front desk job. He looked at me like I was crazy. I grew up in the restaurant business, as you know, and if somebody said to me, hey, I want to open a restaurant, I'd say, okay, go work in the kitchen, start at the dishwasher. They'd look at me like I was crazy. That's what I did. So I started at the dishwasher. Then my father moved me to the pots and pans. Then I learned that I went to garde manger. That's making salads and doing a little prep work. Then I moved to steaks, then saute. Saute is where you start learning how to make the sauces and intricate. By that point, I could run almost the back half of the business. Now I'm waiting tables, bartending, all this to run the front half. Then there's a skill set in almost what my dad done as the host, greeter, the face of the company. Now you got to be a people pleaser. You need to learn their name, what they drink. People love to walk into a restaurant and their drink is already sitting there 2 seconds later because that person knows exactly what you drink. They would come back every single week to sit almost at the same table because of that little bit of service, because they feel like they're wined and dined and they're willing to pay for that. People are willing to pay for good things, but you got to learn how to do that. That's a skill set. So whatever business you're trying to do, you got to learn the business. You can't just hire all the people to learn. You need to know how to work the business. So if they all quit tomorrow, you know how to do it.
That's something that Sean said too, is like every business he's had, he could do every single job. And I think even from a leadership perspective,
Yep.
if you're bossing someone around but you haven't done it, it's like, hold on a second here, buddy, you're telling me to scrub the floors. You haven't scrubbed the floors.
Sure.
Or if you've scrubbed the floors and you can be, I've been where you've been, it's got to get done.
Sure.
You can also hold people accountable because you know how long it takes, how it should be done, whenever it may be. If you can only teach an entrepreneur 3 principles, not tactics, just principles, what would they be?
I think principle 1 that I would teach is a skill set of people. One thing I've learned, you can't necessarily change somebody's personality, but you can make them more self-aware of energy and how they're coming across with facial mannerisms and stuff like that. I have been told since I was a little boy, like, dude, are you always this energetic? It's a frequency I give off that I can't explain that's natural. There's no, I don't know what it is. There's no energy drink that's going to make you feel that way. Some people are just more high strung than others. My father's the same way. So I would say first, let's learn people and learn how to appease people. That's step 1. Second, I would say is how to grind. I think it's super important just to know that there's no off switch if you're an entrepreneur, especially if you're an entrepreneur in sales or any type of business like that you're not punching a clock, for instance. There's no balance in the grind. I say that all the time, but like I feel like there's no off switch for me. If right now, if this is going to take 4 hours, that's what I'm sitting here to do. There's no time. In business, people's like, oh, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, I'm off. If the job is not done and my equipment has to ship out, none of us are going home. Like it's that simple. So I feel like that is what is taught, but that's not applies to the real world principles. And then third, I think that, and this really kind of goes along with what I'm saying, but doesn't, but people need to learn just how to be a good human and good people. I think it's so important because the older I've got, I've probably been living like this for years now, but like I didn't understand this as a young boy. It was never taught to me. But like the more I walk the straight and narrow, the better my life has become. When I veered off the path and done something stupid, which really in reality wasn't stupid, I never got good results, ever. I'll preface it like this. I used to tell people this. If somebody works for me, I always tell them this. I can't stand a liar, a thief, anybody who I can't trust. Trust is a big deal for me. Amber will tell you in our relationship, trust is everything. Like, so if you walk into a convenience store and back in the day, a Snickers bar was cheap. If you stole the Snickers bar as a young kid, it took that store owner 2 to 3 Snickers bars to make the profit that the one you just stole. And then I would always say this, you're not going to wreak probably the havoc of that right off the bat, but I promise you, eventually you're going to get a flat tire in a car. It's going to cost you 100 times more than what that Snickers bar. So I live my life purposeful of walking the straight line. I don't want nothing for free. I only want to be good to people. I want to be good to my wife. I am by no means perfect. I am rough around the edges. I get very passionate. Somebody can take me as screaming and yelling. That's really not my nature. The problem is for me, if you step in my face, I come back in yours. So a person like me who's aggressive in a sense can be taken the wrong way. That's why a lot of times I stay in the back until I'm told to go to the front because I can be taken the wrong way. But I think if we as people just was conscientious enough just to do right, not wrong. Because the problem is so much of the world is doing wrong that we become numb to what's wrong. And that's a major problem right now.
So building a successful business is one thing, but building a successful family is a complete different ball game. For someone who is ambitious, what qualities should they look for in a partner if they want to have both a successful business and a successful family?
Yeah, that was very hard at first for me and Amber, I feel like. Balancing out two alphas. Like, I met her, she was very reserved, but I saw it in her. Like, driven, painting my gym with me till 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. Not asking her to do it. She's just not going home. She's getting on the ladder, painting just like me. Hey, I'm going to get gym equipment. Okay, I'm coming with you. I'm probably not going to be back till 3 o'clock in the morning. She's got to get up to go to work at 6. She's not going to sleep. She's not asking. She's telling me she's going with me. And then she's not going to sleep. She's going to sacrifice and still go to work. And she's going to move the equipment as a little young woman. Unheard of. I think finding that right partner who also understands somebody like myself who there's no cutoff switch is super important because I don't turn off at 5 p.m. It's hard for me to sometimes turn off at 10 p.m. I've had to learn, especially since the kids, how to kind of flip that switch a little bit. And I battle that daily. I would probably, without children, triple my business right now. I'd go that hard. But as you know this, and I'll say this on camera, I'm all about now being a good father, a good husband. He's super important to me. And that's why I don't. But finding that compatibility is so hard. I think you got to be aligned in your values, aligned in your faith, and then make sure that she understands the end goal, that you're doing this together as one. When you get married, you're supposed to become one. There's no, for me and Amber, if her business, for instance, doubled mine tomorrow, I'm her biggest fan. I'm her biggest supporter. Vice versa. I feel like sometimes there can be controversy with that. And there's one don't support the other because they feel left out or feel left behind. And I've seen that with my own friends before, and it's super sad. I'm thankful that we align and understand one another, but it's communication and it's a balancing act. And there's still, I want to say this on camera, going to be hard times because one will still feel a certain way sometimes if you get momentum spurts where everything's going for you and not for me, or vice versa. And it's normal. UFC fighters, they're on a 6-fight win streak and they beat 3 times in a row. And I'm sure they are at home racking their brains. They've trained harder than ever. Why do I keep losing? And after business is that way, relationships that way, marriage is work. So you also, at the very get-go of any relationship, you got to look at each other if you're going to commit and say you're fighting through it all. That's the problem in our world now. People think grass is greener on the other side of relationships, work, business. I've known people, they're through 50 businesses. That's probably why you're not successful. You give up when you should keep going. It's a problem.
You mentioned there if you didn't have kids, you could 3x the business almost overnight with output. How do you make sure your ambition doesn't come at the expense of the people you love the most?
Yeah, that's difficult. Super difficult. Good question. You know, when we had the children and we were struggling before that to have the children, it fired me up in a different way because now I'm like, okay, I have a reason not only to be successful, but to, something to work hard for, something to leave behind. Legacy now matters. I don't give a shit about certain things, but now I do care when I die, what somebody says about Manny or Sophia's dad, if that makes sense. Like, I want them to be known that, he was a good dude, helped me within my business, and I want my kids to know how much I love them. It's difficult when you've got to put so much effort here on the business, but then those kids need you at baseball game, football game. Balancing that time, I feel like my wife has done an amazing job at carrying part of that load so that I can still run the business because I was raised to be the bread bringer. I was raised to make the money. Well, my wife has a very successful business too. And so she was kind of raised to be that way too, but she knows how to turn that off and be mom to allow me to be the businessman, which I'm thankful for. I don't know if I had a different life partner, if it would work because I'm so headstrong within my business. If I had anyone nagging me about other things, I think it would aggravate me to the point I wouldn't want to be with them. And now, but also, I'm thankful Amber is like, hey, you need to be here tomorrow. Those kids need you. Your client will understand, I need you to leave for 1 hour. So it's a balancing act of prioritizing the time. This happened to me literally 2 days ago. In the middle of the afternoon, my daughter had a little cheer recital that was going to take less than 30 minutes. The problem was it was 25 minutes across town from where I worked, and we had clients at the warehouse. So when the clients got there, I specifically told them, I said, listen, I got to run across town, and I won't be long, and I'll be right back. Do y'all mind walking around and just trying equipment? And they were like, no, they completely understood. Sometimes I think fear of what somebody's going to think, you're scared to ask. Now I don't even think about it. I just go and tell the client, and 99% of the time, they deal with it within their own life. So they understand it is what it is.
You spoke about being there, but I feel like entrepreneurs as parents suffer. They're there, but they're not present.
Sure.
How do you make sure your children feel they have your attention, not just your time?
I'm working on that. I'm still a work in progress. I've so many times I'm there, but I'm emailing, I'm doing the social media. I'm more focused on finding the right trending song for the reel. I spent 30 minutes looking for a freaking song while I needed to be watching my kids. And I'm so guilty. And I guarantee you, uh, there's so many parents out there just like me that are guilty. People just don't want to freaking talk about it. Like I told you, not being on social media at the work hours, I'm trying to be better than that at the dinner table. Okay, if we're going to sit down as a family for 15 minutes and eat, I'm going to try not to pick up my phone. That little bit of time, just embrace the kids. We've been for years, we always eat dinner together as a family, every night of the week. And now my kids are almost a part of the business in every way. They're going to the events with us. We've made my son's behind the camera, who he loves it. He's filming the behind the scenes. He's taking photos. I have specifically bought new cameras just for him to do that. He enjoys it. So we're not forcing them to do anything. We're just making them a part of our life. And I think that's what's important with figuring it out, is figuring out what works for you to make your life easier and better. But those kids need your attention. And every parent, and I'll preface this, the mom don't work, let's just say. And this could go either side. The dad could be the stay at home, but the mom's a stay at home mom, and the father they're barely making it. And the father's working 90 hours a week. He's working his full-time job. He's got a second job and still working overtime at the first job. God, that's hard. I relate. I see both sides. So the dad is never seeing the kids. That would have been me 20 years ago if I would have had kids, because I would have felt the need to provide for the children and I would have never saw them. So as I got older, I'm like, okay, I've worked for this. This is going to sacrifice some of my income for the year, or people's going to have to understand that they got to be on my time, not me on their time no more. So I got asked yesterday, hey, today's the only day I can come on a weekend. I need to come to the warehouse. I said, I apologize. I'm not there. I have other things going on. And I said, "You're what?" I said, "I'll be there all week, Monday through Friday." I have zero clue, to be honest with you, how big that sale was going to be yesterday. But I had other engagements that I had to do. I've become very good at that. Just literally saying no. And there's a power in saying no.
Your children won't remember the revenue your business did this year. What do you hope they remember about you instead?
Mm. I just hope, especially Manny, he's at work with me a lot. I just hope he remembers me pouring the knowledge in him, like my dad done me, because they're so pure. You know, it makes me emotional talking always about my kids because you don't know what they're thinking sometimes. They can tell you all they want, but like Manny needs words of affirmation all the time. Sophia don't like to hear them. You can tell her she's beautiful to her face. She's going to say, "Dad, stop." It embarrasses her, whatever. And she's so freaking beautiful. And so, like, now, yesterday or 2 days ago in the car, I'm like giving Manny all this information. And he looks at me and he's like, "Dad, don't tell me no more. You tell me this all the time." And I'm like dying laughing inside, but I'm like, "What do you mean?" And he's like, "Dad, I don't need a lecture. I know." And I'm like, "Manny, I'm going to pound it into your brain that you will never get." He said, "Dad, I'm never going to forget." But it's like, I think I'd done the same thing my father done to me. And you don't realize you're just a product of your environment. So now I'm trying to, like, anything that I hated growing up, I'm trying not to do the same thing, but like trying to spin it off in a better light, but still making my son and daughter just remember how hard their father worked, how much they were loved. And it's a balancing act because you don't want to give them the world and make them lazy. I'm real big on that. I want them to know when they have their own money and they buy something that they paid for, what that feels like. Because if I go buy you something and you didn't earn it, it's different. You can buy a piece of crap car, but you earned it, you worked for it, you paid for it. You're proud of that car. You should be. But if your father goes buys you a Ferrari and you've never worked a day in your life, nothing's ever been given to me. And so I've been impounding this into my brain. In the Greek world, you come up young and you're working. Now that I'm in my 40s, I appreciate that because I knew early on what a dollar was worth and what it took to make the dollar. And so now, the more money I make, the harder it is for me to spend because I know how hard it used to be to earn it. They always say the first part of your wealth is the hardest part to earn. I've heard many people speak on this before. To hit the $1 million threshold is the hardest one, but to get to 10 is easier than the one. And in a sense, it's so true because sometimes you look at the world and it's like so many people they're out to get that 3% cost of living raise. They've been working the same job for years, 3% every year. Okay, that's fine and dandy. But for somebody like me, it's like I remember so many years having multiple businesses and being so broke. And the outside world not seeing it. They're just judging Steven on certain things. Oh, his daddy must have paid for this. They didn't know the truth. And so I sat there not wondering why people are sit there asking myself, why do people think this way? And now the older I get, I just think so differently as far as that goes. So
Reflecting back on your journey, has your definition of success changed over the last 20 years? And if so, how?
yeah, it definitely has. I used to think success was the cars, the material things. I was all about the material things at a young age. I saw that a little growing up, that my dad would reward himself or like buy a nice car. But in the reality of things, I didn't understand finances and I didn't understand, like, hey, if we don't have the money to buy this, we shouldn't buy this. Because in reality, that car makes us happy for 3 days. And then that payment comes in. You got to pay for it. And then the eye awakening comes, and then the insurance and the maintenance and the whole thing. Now I say on social media all the time, like 99% of times people will see me in a TikTok. And I've become my unapologetic, authentic self. That's why I don't change. I keep my earrings in as many people. It's so crazy because some of the most successful people in the world with loads of money, they always tell me, don't change. And then there will be so many people who've never even met me or had a conversation with me write a comment calling me names. And that's how I know I've grown into me, because now it don't matter to me what shoes I wear. 95% of the time I'm in Brooks, old beat up shoes. I have tons of pairs of nice shoes. But in reality, to me, it doesn't matter anymore. What matters is that I'm being the good father, the good husband, running a good business, and helping make impact in the world. That's all that matters to me at this point. Versus, I think when you're young, you're after the money. And what I learned is the more I give, and I'm not talking monetary things, the more I give, for instance, to the church. And I'm not just talking about money, being a good steward of the church, helping people change their financial trajectory within their business. More money has come to me by just being kind, by just being good. For anybody listening to this, you would say, oh, this guy's full of shit. They might think that. I'm not full of shit. I live this. Ask anybody. I've changed thousands of gyms around the world, their financial trajectories. And I'm so proud of that. Honestly, that fulfills me. And I get $0 on repayment from any of these gyms. Like, once I sell them the equipment, I don't get any revenue stream from them. I don't want it. I just love getting that call a year later and I'm on the phone with somebody I hadn't talked to in a while. And they're like, Steven, the gym's killing it. We couldn't have done this without you, bro. Or, Steven, those 3 pieces you sold us, our revenue went up this. Like, I love dropping that little tidbit of information or just tweaking something within somebody's business and then them telling me it changed everything. That's what life's about. And as you grow older, I've heard so many people, you're on your deathbed. Does the money matter? My health matters. Being here for my children matters. Will my kids care about the gold bracelet I'm wearing? Hell no, they won't. They care, was their dad at that football game? They don't, and at the football game, it don't matter how much money you got. They just want their dad. That's what matters.
Talking about what matters, what do you think people should ultimately strive for in life?
For me, if I could say one word, impact. To that is at the point what fulfills me now is helping others. I tell people all the time at my warehouse, I'm no longer working for the money. And I think a lot of people don't understand what I mean by that. When I say I'm no longer working for the money, I've hit my numbers in a sense beyond what I ever thought could be done. First of all, the business that I created, it wasn't really being done the way I was doing it. I didn't even know 20 years ago it was going to be a business. It just kind of organically happened. And yeah, I always want to grow, but I think that comes with a gift and curse by growing. So at the end of the day, I want to basically always take it to the next level, but within stride, but keep the quality 110%. Me and you've spoke about this before. I don't want to grow and my name go to shit. I want to, and it is a balancing act to keep quality high, yet still keep a good name. And I always don't want anybody to feel like that I don't give them that time. The problem with me, I can be a people pleaser and I can give too much time. And I think that's navigating still. I'm still figuring it out. I'm still a work in progress. I am not perfect by no means. And so hopefully, I'm doing a good job. I'm making the impact in the world. And I will tell anybody who's watching this, if you every day can just strive to do one good deed for someone, There's eventually somebody out there that's going to see what you're doing, and that one person could change your life. Because I've done so many, I used to get so frustrated. I would do so many good deeds for people, and I would feel undervalued. And then some big name people started calling out of the blue. You're eventually, it could take 10 years, going to meet one person who sees your value. Maybe there's a single person out there looking for his or her significant other. You're eventually, somebody's going to see the value in you. Because you know what's sad? Most people don't see the value in them. It's true. I don't think I used to see the value in me. I was the hardest worker in the room and still not as good as some. I wasn't the best on the football field, but I'm working harder than anybody. How am I not the best? That just wasn't my calling. You got to figure out what God placed on your life and then become the best at that. And that takes sometimes, some people, they might not hit it till 50. I don't know. It's,
100%. What do you hope your children inherit from you that has nothing to do with money?
I hope that they just learn to do whatever they're called to do. And that's what I preach to them every day. That's big for me and Amber because they both say, well, Sophia used to say, I want to be a real estater. And Manny has said, I'm going to do warehouse and gym equipment. And now he's telling me he's going to bodybuild only for 3 years. I used to tell Manny that I technically only had really 3 solid years of bodybuilding. Now, what Manny don't realize, you're building your foundation of your physique for years, even if you're not competing. So Manny don't quite get that yet, but I just want to see them fulfilled with whatever they love. If that's a school teacher, if that's a doctor, whatever it is, I want them to be able to put a smile on their face and love what they do every day. There is sometimes in my business that's hard. There is sometimes I want to ream my head against the wall. Like any business is hard, but I tell people any job's hard. But I love what I do and I would do it for free. And I've said people, and I know for a fact, my wife would sell real estate for free. When I started doing the content, I was big about I don't want to sound like a sales guy. That's why I didn't want to sell anything at first, because I didn't want to come across as that. And now, several years later, I get told all the time, you are the same person on camera as you are off. People who've hung around with me for 2 days at the warehouse, they're like, man, you are identical. They all say that. And I'm like, because I don't want to be no front. I'm never going to come on a podcast and play somebody I'm not. It's the worst thing you can do is just be your authentic self. And I think my kids know now that's all I want for them. Be Manny and be Sophia at whatever that is and be the best at those people that you can be.
I think with social media these days, a lot of people think that they're behind because they see all the success stories.
Mhm.
If someone's watching this today and feels like they're behind in life, what's the one thing you want them to understand?
So I thought the same, just so you know this. And I may or may not have discussed this with you before, but when my business, some people a few years ago, they would tell me, you're the biggest warehouse in the world under one roof. And I would say, am I? Because there's no documentation of like a Guinness Book of World Record of who's got the most gym equipment under one roof. Okay. I'm still here to say that. I can't tell you. I do think we are one of the biggest, new and used, but who's to say? So at that point, a lot of people would say this to me, and it would always be like a dagger in me. I can't believe, as big as you are, everybody knows who you are in the fitness world, you don't have 1 million followers. That's what everybody would. It would hurt me a little bit like, golly, you're right. A lot of people know me. The bodybuilders knew me. I'm at Olympia. I'm giving trophies out on stage. I'm a sponsor. I do all this good. Why do I only have 5,000, 10,000, 15,000 followers? I don't know. And then I started talking to a few people, and I started looking at my own. How often does he post? Once every third day. A photo of a piece for sale, a video that was on my camera phone, and I was kind of faceless. I'd be like, hey, what's up, guys? This is Steven from Superfitness. I'm going to flip the camera around and show off some gym equipment. I'd go make a video. I was kind of faceless. I would talk for a few seconds. Once in a blue moon, I would put the camera on my desk and talk for 5-10 minutes. This is many, many years ago. Not really on Instagram, on Facebook. And several powerful people told me, they said, Steven, you don't have to. You sell lots of gym equipment. But if you want to be bigger, this is what you got to do. I wasn't doing the blueprint that I knew what to do. Input equals output. And I was not doing, the math wasn't mathing. If you're not consistent with your diet, you're not going to get the body. I was not being consistent. Sometimes I would post 4 days in a row, and then I'd notice I didn't post for 5 days. People forget quick. And so to build an audience, and so I took social media as a business. And I'm like, okay. And I didn't do it for any other reason but to make impact within my business owners. I wanted to give out, I'm big, you know this, give out the free information. Because in order for the free information to work, you got to implement it. And a lot of people don't implement, it's the sad part. But if you implement what I tell you to do at the gyms, it's gonna work. And I love seeing those people who don't even know me. I get told this all the time. People will be like, hey, Steven, I've never bought from you, but I've been doing little things that you say, and it's made a world of difference in my business. I'm coming to you next time for equipment. That right there leads them to me for equipment because I'm giving them free value. They don't forget that, or some don't. And so to me, that's what's important.
What would your direct message be to someone that feels like they're behind in their industry? Like, how do they overcome that feeling of I'm behind?
Yeah. So when going back to the social, I literally thought I was behind. And so I want to tell everybody 6 months in to posting consistently, I saw an uptick, but not drastic. Definitely an uptick, but not drastic. I feel like anything can take time. And we had a few big videos go pretty good, hundreds of thousands of views, and it didn't get the following I thought it was going to get. And I almost think you can become discouraged in a sense for a second. But when I started noticing, let's say a year-ish in, I'll tell you this is a big one for me. YouTube is a hard one to crack. I still don't think we have it figured out 100% because I've had some great videos that people I don't think wanted to see as bad as I thought I liked it. And then I've had some videos that I'm just talking about gym equipment that hit 100,000 organic views in a matter of a few days. I'm like, what in the world? So a friend of mine, about a year and a half, my very first video is called Superfitness Story. It hit like 5,000 organic views in the first year and a half. And I was like, wow. I was like, it was kind of discouraging a little bit. I thought it was going to do more than that. And a buddy of mine called me and he's like, hey, Steven, I just want to tell you I'm proud of you. I said, proud of what? And he said, and by the way, during this time, this happened to several people telling me this. And I wasn't knowing. I had been putting one consistent video out a month. But several people had told me that they had watched the Superfitness Story. And one guy in particular said, I'm proud of you. I didn't know all that about your story. And I'm like, what'd you watch? And he said, the Superfitness Story. And it was published like a year and a half earlier. YouTube lives forever. It's like on there. So you can have a video like not do great. And then a year later, it's pop up again. I don't know why. And so I said, really? I said, well, thank you, man. And so we're talking. And another guy kind of told me the same thing within a few days. I had not went back to the video. I go back to the video and it was at 12,000 views. I'm like, wow, what in the world? It more than doubled the views. Kind of took me for a loop. And I wasn't really looking at YouTube like that. And so next thing I know, that video for a little while just popped off, and went to like a few 100,000 views. A video that I put out a year and a half, 2 years earlier. It takes time and consistency. Even now, I don't have 1 million followers on one platform. You know this. But do you need them? Not necessarily. I feel like quality over quantity, and I'll put it to people, anybody watching this, if an arena had 100,000 people, a stadium, a soccer stadium with 100,000 people, and at a click of a button, you can reach those 100,000, you are powerful. That's powerful if you had 100,000 quality people there to watch you. So you don't need millions. And so I don't think anybody's behind, because I've done a total 360 in 3 years. I don't think 3 years is a lot of time considering how much can happen. I mean, you know this. I'm getting out of the plane at airports and getting asked for selfies. I'm getting stopped on Miami streets by multiple people asking me for photos. It is mind-boggling to me. It always almost makes me laugh or smile, because I'm like, I'm just a guy from Graham, North Carolina that sells gym equipment. I'm not some celebrity. Like, what is going on? But that's the power of consistency over time. Small little daily wins are going to equal big wins over time, period. So I don't think anybody's behind.
On the social media front, because it's my game, followers do not matter anymore. The way the algorithm works, like there's probably loads of guys that you get fed their content, you don't even follow them.
Sure.
And also, there's almost like a status thing with following less people now. So people want to have like less following, so they're
Right.
cooler compared to the ratio to their following. So it's actually, views are more important. If you're consistently getting good views, because you know yourself, one, people buy fake followers, and two, people might just go out fashion. So they have like the 1 million followers, but they get low views.
Sure.
So you'd rather have, in terms of followers, they look good and they're great, but like having that, as you say, consistent hardcore audience is way, way more
And
important.
now that my following's more up, I notice that I'm like, okay, well, you know, I don't have 800,000 followers on one platform, 1 million followers, but like my views are better than these other people's, consistently 20, 30, 40,000 organic views on a 20, 30-second video. That's really good. And then some of them 150,000, 300,000, 1 million. Like, therefore, it is very true. And Gary Vee said this on a podcast, like, you do not have to have, if you're putting the good content out, people's going to see it because it's going to suggest you and put you out there. So that's more important, I think, now.
100%. Last question. If this was the last conversation you were ever going to have with people listening, what are the 3 life lessons you believe every person should live by?
Oh, that's hard if it was the last conversation. I would say, first, become the best version you can be. So important, because I live my life as Steven, and I see so many people trying to be someone else. I got this big saying, I don't wear anything fake. You can't give it to me. You can't give me fake gold, fake shoes, fake anything. I don't give a shit if it looks identical. I don't want it, because I think anyone needs to be their authentic self. So be the best version of you, because we're all gifted in every different sense. We all have an untapped gift, some of us that don't even know. I've told you before, you now to you 20 years from now are going to be a different person. I don't know exactly what that person's going to be doing, but I know it's going to be something big. I know for a fact. You'll look back at me saying this and we'll laugh about it one day. Second, I think that be a hard worker at whatever you do. Because one thing I've learned, there's nothing free in this world. And if you want to be great, it takes hard work. And when I say great, I'm not talking money. If you want to be a great husband, it takes a lot of work. If you want to be a great father, my God, that will make you pull the hair out of your head. Takes a lot of work. If you want to be a great businessman, you better get prepared to become the floor sweeper, the bathroom cleaner, the babysitter of employees, drama filled as far as being able to listen to employees, dump on you that they have this problem, that problem, this problem. It was hard for me to navigate all that as a business owner. I've had to learn over the past 20 plus years how to have more empathy for others. I used to be like, I don't give a shit, just hard. Go home, I'll do it myself. Like being as real as possible on this podcast. And then I would see that led me nowhere. Or if you're dating a woman and you give her that attitude, she's probably not going to stay with you very long because you're not giving her that empathy. People are different. And what works for me is not going to work. If I'm working at the level 20, I can't expect everybody to work at my level. I'm a different breed of human when it comes to work ethic because there's no off switch. And I've learned there's people that have a threshold. So that's where the empathy comes into play. And then third, if it was the last thing that I was going to say, I would probably, God, this is hard. I would probably just say, leave a long lasting legacy and impression on people that people will remember forever. And I think how you do that is slow wins over time, letting people realize that you are who you say you are. You are a doer of what you say you're going to do. And you are not out here in the limelight of social media being a winner and doing everything wrong in the background. That's called a hypocritical person. There's so many people I think that do that and they're doing the highlight reel in life, not just social media. And then they're not being who they really are. For instance, if you're claiming you have a good marriage and you're at home beating your wife, it's not a good marriage. Little things like that. If you're claiming you're all about your kids and you're never there for your kids, you're not being a good parent. Little things. You can't be about something and be the opposite behind closed doors. And that's why I'll finish with this. I walk the straight line. I do exactly, if I say I'm going to do it, you can damn bet you I'm going to do it. And if I also tell you I can't do it, there's a reason I can't. There's no deviation for me. I'm not, I always say I'm always going down the long, lonely road because typically I'm by myself on that road because everybody else is looking for the shortcut. I'm looking for the long-term path, the relationship for 20, 30 years with customers, not the home run and that I lost that customer for life. That's where I think my business has been successful. And me, I've been successful as a person because anyone who meets me after the first handshake and the first initial conversation, I've been told so many times, like, dude, you're one of the realest dudes I've ever met. Because I say what I mean, you can feel it. And also, if I don't like that person, they're probably going to realize real fast I don't like them. And when I say I don't like them, if I saw them do something that I'm shocked they do, I just can't jive with that person, if that makes sense. And I think all three of those things are just in simplicity of all this, trying to be good in life. You know, I'm big on faith. So I've learned this from Amber, but being like at peace with, you know, I've not always been this way, but being at peace with, you know, Jesus and knowing somebody's watching you with whatever you believe, there's definitely other things that make me try to live life a certain way. And I think people fail to realize that, you know, being a good human is so much more than just, you know, appeasing your wife It's being a good person. It states it in the Bible. All the things, but then we fight that. Our flesh fights that. We want to forgive, but we don't. And I've had to learn the hard way with my own study and my own, and I'll say it again, I'm a work in progress. I am not perfect. I fight my own, I know what to do, but I fight doing it of my own self. Every day, there is times anybody, and you've probably been this way too, you're at the computer, it's 8 o'clock in the morning, and you need a full day of work, and the hands won't start going. You just can't work that day. You got outside influence of something bothering you that the brain is not corresponding to the fingers. I have sat at my desk for 2 hours and done nothing. Where I don't know what's wrong with me. Okay, I need to take a break for a minute and go figure out my head and then come back. I think by doing the work, the inner deep work of being a good human, being a good follower of, the Bible, that has helped me implement all these things. So when I am gone, then I think people will realize, man, that was a good dude. He was about exactly what he said. And if he said he couldn't do it, he couldn't do it. But he also wasn't perfect. I don't want to be known as perfect. That's why when I come on a podcast, I used to not want to do a podcast because I was like, oh, I'm not polished. I might drop the F-bomb. I might do this. But I also realized that's what people love Stephen, because I'm not. And now I'm conscientious enough to admit that. So
Stephen Reyes, thank you very much.
you're welcome.